Hey everybody, Kara Castronova with Lindell TV here with General Flynn.
Hey,
We're
Kara.
here at the Gold Institute. There was just an amazing event, but we're
Yeah, it was
talking
great.
about weaponization right now. It's something that General Flynn feels strongly about because he was a victim of political persecution.
Yeah.
And what this administration needs to do and the Department of Justice needs to do when it comes to holding people accountable that weaponize the justice system. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so one of the things that I say is that, accountability is the price of liberty, right? So if you want to just put it into a phrase, that's an important phrase, because if we don't hold people accountable for what we know for certain was a conspiracy to commit treason and undermine a duly elected president of the United States of America, and that's not my words, that's President Trump, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's words. They use the word treason, and everybody knows that that's essentially what happened. It's certainly a conspiracy to basically undermine everything that we are supposed to stand for. So, not rehashing everything going back to prior to the 2016 election and Russiagate and on and on and on, all this stuff. Now, and I called, the year 2026, I say, make accountability great again, right? So if we don't see accountability of the people that committed the most dangerous type of crime to this country, which is to undermine, a duly elected president and to basically usurp the Constitution of the United States of America, if we don't see accountability of those people that did that, and I'm talking about like very soon, then I am really worried that we are going to lose this country. And I hate to be, pessimistic about things, but I'm being realistic with people that I speak to, and many, many people around the country that as I go around the country, and I still go around the country quite a bit, I love talking to grassroots people, and they're like asking me, well, when are we going to see something? When are we going to see accountability? So the weaponization of government, weaponization of the intelligence system, of our justice system, will continue if nobody's held accountable, because people are going to feel like they got away with it. So,
They did get away with it so far.
So far, they've gotten away with it. There's some things happening. We hear about the grand jury down in Florida, so maybe we'll see some indictments coming out of that grand jury, and there's going to be battles in court, as there should be, with our justice system and our rule of law. But people in this country, they want to see that. And I will tell you that I am afraid that the 2026 turnout for our elections, we have our primaries coming up. They actually start a month from today in Arkansas and Texas, and I think a couple of other states in March. So the turnout in primaries is usually low anyway, which is a shame, but I'm afraid that the turnout in the midterm elections, which are vital, will be low, because if people aren't held accountable, they're going to say, look, I'm done. And I have had more people tell me that, and I've said, no, don't give up.
Right.
President Trump's going to do the right thing. He knows what needs to be done. But my message to President Trump is that get your team in and tell him, look, and you can see it when you were in front of him enough to where, you can see his frustration. You can hear it in his voice. You can see it in the way he uses social media. So, get your team in and tell them, look, I need to be able to tell the American people that for a fact they are going to see accountability of those that committed the most egregious crime against this country that we've ever had committed. Treason, right? And it's not in question anymore. It's not a conspiracy theory. And so the Department of Justice, the other systems that we have, the law enforcement community, the intelligence system, and I really become a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard because of the things that Tulsi's been able to show, and she's been really strong. And the reason why, and I say this about her, and I think Trump is a lot like this too. You're very black. They're very black and white. Right or wrong. So if it's right, then let's go with it, right? And let's do it, especially if it's a good thing. If it's wrong, let's stop it, or let's put it out of its existence. And I think that's where we are right now with accountability. We have got to get to the bottom of it, and we got to hold people accountable. Otherwise, they're going to do it again. And if we lose this country in the 2026 midterms, and I mean that, we could lose this country at that point in time. I would say this election is the most important. This election is the most important. The 2026 election is a time where If we don't get our election system changed, if we don't hold people accountable, the weaponization is going to go into overdrive.
Well, they're already making threats. I read that a lot of congressmen on the Democrat side are saying, "Oh, well, you want to subpoena Hillary and Bill? Watch what happens to Trump and his family now in 26. We're going to subpoena all of them. We're going to come after them in 2028 when we win back the presidency." They're just making these threats, and we know they'll follow up with them. They already have done it, so it's very scary.
No, just got to listen to it. Yeah, all you have to do is listen to what they're saying. They are telling us exactly. They're telegraphing exactly what their plans are. You know, we're here in Washington, D.C. There are bodies here right now, you know, organizations that are already putting lists of people together to go after. So we can't kid ourselves that we're in this environment of politics, you know, as usual. It's not politics as usual. It's either we have a country that we're proud of and that we can see for the next 100 years or 250 years. That's a constitutional republic, or we're going to turn into a socialist, you know, country. I mean, I'm serious, and I'm very serious about this. The amount of socialists or communists that are in our government, in Congress, in many cases, and certainly in other parts of our government, right here in Washington D.C., is far higher than I think most people realize.
Who would be your top 5 wish list? Like if you were Attorney General and you could just indict people that should be arrested, top 5.
Top 5: Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Annie McCabe, and in my case, I'd add in Peter Strzok. Those would be my top 5. One of those 5, if they were brought in, if they were indicted, one of those 5 would talk. You know, and I think the one I believe would be the loudest would be Jim Clapper, because Jim Clapper's an older gentleman. You know, he really did some bad things while he was the director of national intelligence, and part of this conspiracy to undermine the country. And I don't think Jim Clapper wants to go to jail for the rest of his life, because that's where he'll spend it. So I think if they brought Jim Clapper in, I think Jim Clapper would lay everything out that they conspired to do.
Are you hopeful that the DOJ will continue to clean up the swamp creatures that still exist there?
Yeah, I'm not. We're a year into this thing, and you know, you look at the numbers that they've still kept around. You know, the largest U.S. Attorney's office is right here in Washington D.C. I think the number's like 500 people in it. You know, I mean, that's a big office. I don't see the reform that is required. And then the second part of that is the U.S. attorneys around the country. I forget the number, but it's probably somewhere as close to 70 U.S. attorneys in different cities around the country. And I'm not sure how many of those have been changed out. You know, I think the number's very low in terms of how many have been changed out. So those are people that were appointed by Biden.
Right. Well, Jocelyn Valentine, who is a prosecutor who really gave you a hard time and really politically persecuted you, is in charge of the pipe bomber case. So why is that? A lot of people are asking.
Right. And, you know, you want to think that these people are like true to their profession, rule of law type people. And what you find is they're actually very politically biased, very much so. And she'd be one of those people.
Yeah, Jocelyn Valentine would be someone I would love to see investigated, or in the very least questioned before Congress, or an independent investigation into her actions. Allegedly, she tried to frame President Trump. So, I mean, these are serious allegations. Hopefully, we get to the bottom of it. But thank you so much for the hard work that you keep doing with everything, fighting for America. The great General Flynn, thank you so much.
Thank you so